Hello. Hi. Today is a little different. I mean, it kind of looks medieval-like. Well, ignore what's on my lap. My outfit looks kind of medieval-ish, but I'm actually, here's my unicorn staff. Pretend it is rosewood and lapis lazuli, and I don't have my collie with me, but I have my unicorn with me. Pretend it's brown or chestnut, because today my name is Arianna, Princess Arianna, from the Unicorns of Balinor, my favorite chapter books, other than Goosebumps. But I think I read the unicorn books before I read Goosebumps when I was a kid. They came out in like 1999 and 2000. So, and I still have the books. I still own them, as I've had them for like 20 years. Oops, that's betraying how old I am. But my boyfriend's daughter and me, we decided to do a weekly like themed clothing thing. Sometimes it's going to be a little more costumey than others. It started out as just like I was talking about how in school we had, you know, tie-dye Tuesday, or like I had in high school where all the Taekwondo kids wore their shirts on Wednesdays, I think. Insert Mean Girl quote here about wearing pink. So we wanted to do that again, but we kind of went over the top and decided to go with themes. So every Sunday we are going to pick a new theme. We have a bunch of themes in a bowl thingy. We're going to pick a new one on Sunday nights, and then Monday we're going to wear them and take pictures and stuff. And it's both of my boyfriend's daughters and me, obviously, and their mom. My dad has been invited to do it as well, but you know, dads. He's like, well, you know, I'm in my underwear for most of the day, so I don't see how I could do that. And I joked with him that, well, when you wear your black underwear, you could say you're Batman. He didn't really like that idea. So I just wanted to show you my outfit today. It's not correct in color at all, but in the type of things it's correct. So like she has a linen shirt, blouse, whatever. I think it's supposed to be like tan or cream colored, and then a vest. Mine is denim, hers is leather, and then her skirt. She wears two different skirts as described in the book. One is velvet and black, I think, and one is red and material is not described. But I have one that's pink and black, so I wore that. And her hair is chestnut brown. It matches her unicorn. Typical fairy tale book thing where like her hair is down to her butt and she never ties it up because she's a princess, you know, and she's a warrior, so it has to be flowing, you know, and it matches her unicorn's hair color and whatever. It's flowing all the time, and she's always wearing like, it's based in modern times, like now, well, I mean 2000 now, but also in Balinor it's like the time forgot sort of thing, so it's like medieval-ish time. So yes, the medieval type clothing like fits in with it, but majority of the book they are either camping or they're in a battle. What person would fight a battle in this? Or even camp in this? Like, it's pretty, but whatever. It's a kid's book. I plan on reading a little bit of the first one for you because most of you have probably never heard of it. Oh, I guess I should say the theme for today is dress as your favorite character, fictional character. And so I have a lot, but I decided on this one because I don't know why I never did her when I was a little kid, other than like kids want to do, you know, scary things at Halloween or stuff from movies. They don't usually want to do things from books. Excuse me. But so it's just like, oh my gosh, I have to do this now. This is my opportunity to finally do this. And these books mean so much to me, and the name Arianna is it's kind of silly, but I want to name a daughter Arianna, and yes, it's pronounced Arianna, Arianna. So yes, spelled the same way as Ariana Grande, but it's not pronounced Arianna. It's spelled the same way, but for some reason my little kid brain read that as Arianna, and so that's how I've always pronounced it, and it's staying that way. Because I mean, even the nickname Ari versus Ari sounds better to me. But then I've been saying it that way for 20 years. So I'm hoping that, and even if I don't have a human daughter on my own, that's a long story for another day, another topic. But that how I'll name a dog Arianna, as silly as it is. I will use that fucking name. I swear I will. This is where that name comes from, is this story. We did like a photo shoot earlier. Well, I wasn't wearing me how I was wearing, you know, me, normal me. Oh, she also has a, gosh, okay, I'm going all over the place, I'm sorry, it's just so exciting. So, yeah, so Arianna, and she rides a unicorn named Sun Chaser, or just Chase, who has same color coat as her hair color, not white, but this is the first unicorn stuffie that I ever got, so figure it's you know, it works good. And she has a royal scepter, royal talking magical scepter, of course, that is rosewood and lapis lazuli, but this is the best that I could do, is a walking stick. Oh no, it came off. Yeah, and I mean, I colored it kind of haphazardly. I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of time coloring it, but you get it. It's a walking stick. This actually used to be my walking stick when I was a little kid. It went all the way up to not quite my shoulders, but like higher than my hip for sure. And now it's like doesn't even come up to my waist at all. So that's how much I've grown. That's how long I've had it for it to be that much of a height difference. So that's what that is. And oh, and she has a collie, a rough collie named Lincoln, and took a photo shoot earlier with Spirit as a stand-in for Lincoln, obviously. At first I wanted to make Spirit the unicorn because it's just stinking cute. I even made him a horn, but then I realized, well, wait a minute, she has a unicorn and a dog. I should probably use the dog as the dog. Anyways, so I'm gonna go back inside, and I'm gonna read you a little bit of the story. Let's get to reading. Unicorns of Balinor. Book 1, The Road to Balinor, by Mary Stanton. See, and the date on this is, sorry, making sure my mic is on, is, let's see, I can read it, 1999. Oh my gosh, I was 10 years old. Oh boy. It was dawn in the celestial valley. The sky over the eastern ridge slowly turned pink. Silver light spilled across the wooded hills. touching the waters of the river, winding through meadows and and flowering trees, then spreading over the herd of sleeping unicorns. A few unicorns stirred in their sleep. All slept peacefully. The celestial valley was their home, and had been since time began. Above the valley, between the clouds that drifted across the sky, was the home of the gods and goddesses who had created them. Below the valley, by way of a rocky, treacherous path, known only to a few, lay the world of humans. In this world there was Balinor, the country guarded by the celestial unicorns, and then there was the land beyond the gap. The gap was haunted by myths and legends. A few chosen unicorns had been down to Balinor. Fewer still had crossed over the gap to Earth. But for thousands of years, after each sunrise in the celestial valley, all unicorns had gathered shoulder to shoulder to form the rainbow. Then they would sing in the new day. They wouldn't fully awaken until the sun itself peeked over the ridge, and for now, the sun was still out of sight behind the mountains. So they slept, curled horn to tail. Some lay back to back, others dozed peacefully alone under the sapphire willows that lined the banks of the Imperial River. All of them slept but one. Atalanta, the dream speaker, was up early. She hadn't rested at all that night. Just before the sun came up, she gave up trying to rest. She trotted up the eastern ridge to the watching pool to wait for the visions she knew would come. Sorry, I'm like, nervous, so my breathing isn't the best. Atalanta was the color of the sky before moonrise, a soft blend of lavender, violet, and shadowy grays. Her mane, tail, and horn were of the purest silver. She was the mate of Numenor, the Golden One, leader of the Celestial Valley herd. As the dream speaker, Atalanta was the link between unicorns and the world of humans, just as twilight was the link between night and day. Atalanta, alone of all the celestial unicorns, could appear in the dreams of both humans and animals alike. She was able to call up visions from the watching pool. Her magic allowed Atalanta to watch events in the worlds of humans below. The headwaters of the Imperial River formed the watching pool. The Imperial River began as a small stream, trickling from a curiously shaped stone spout in the side of the ridge. This stream flowed into a pond lined with amethyst rock, and from there into a waterfall that fed the Imperial River. The jeweled rocks, found nowhere else in the Celestial Valley, formed a glittering violet circle, perfectly round and enormously deep. This was the watching pool. Atalanta stood there now, hawk deep in the velvety grass that lined the banks. Images formed there, one after the other. The visions remained for a few moments, then sank to the depths of the pool. They disappeared like snowflakes. Atalanta knew she didn't have much time to watch the visions. She bent over the watching pool and touched her horn upon the water, saying, "I, Atalanta, dream speaker, call forth the Princess of Balinor." The silvery blue water stirred clockwise, faster and faster. Small waves slapped against the amethyst rock. The waters dimpled as if an invisible hand scattered raindrops on the surface. Then the whirlpool stilled, and an image formed in the water. Atalanta saw a slender, bronze-haired girl twisted in pain on a hospital bed. Her legs were bandaged from knee to ankle. "Arianna!" Atalanta called, but the girl made no answer. She slept a deep, unnatural sleep that Atalanta's dreams couldn't reach. So Atalanta had been right. Arianna had been gravely hurt. Atalanta's purple eyes filled with grief. The dream speaker touched her horn twice more on the water. The girl in the hospital bed faded into the depths of the watching pool. A new vision formed. A unicorn stallion knelt in a dark horse stall, head bowed so that his muzzle touched the ground. His coat was bronze, the same hair color as that of the girl in the hospital bed. Atalanta knew him. He was the Sun Chaser, lord of animals and the world of humans, bonded to Arianna and akin to Atalanta herself. Not so long ago, Atalanta watched the Sun Chaser, tall and proud, down in Balinor. Now he lay wounded on the other side of the gap. There was a bloody stump in the center of his forehead, where his bronze horn once had been. He groaned once, enduring a pain-filled sleep. "Sun Chaser!" Atalanta called. The great unicorn raised his head. Atalanta quivered. His bronze horn was gone. A cruel white scar was the only reminder of his former glory. His dark brown eyes were dull. He dropped his head onto the stall floor and lay still. He had heard her dream speaking. Atalanta was sure of it. But he no longer understood the unicorn's language. He could no longer speak. 2 tears slid down Atalanta's cheeks and dropped into the water of the watching pool. The image of the bronze unicorn sank. Atalanta held her breath, reluctant to see what she had to see next. She shook herself all over, scattering a flowery scent through the cool air. The Sun Chaser, greatest of those unicorns who roamed the world of humans, lay broken beyond the reach of the celestial valley herd. Arianna, the lost princess of Balinor, endured the pain of mangled legs, not knowing who she really was. Atalanta couldn't bear the horror of what would happen next in the watching pool, but she had to know. Did Entia, the evil shifter, know where the princess and her wounded unicorn were hidden? And if he did, what terrible vengeance would the shifter seek? End of chapter 1. Let's see, 8 minutes. I could keep going, I suppose. Okay, I've decided I'm going to read the last chapter. I read the first chapter. Now I'm going to read the last. I mean, it'll spoil some things, but mostly like just to give you an idea of what it's about, you know. I mean, there's way more than this. Obviously, there's 9 books in the series, I think. It's either 8 or 9. I don't even remember. But yeah, I'm obviously not going to sit here and read the whole thing unless you want me to for some reason. But yeah, you're probably sick of hearing my breathing. Sorry, I get nervous and it's hard for me to breathe. Yeah, but I'll just read the last chapter so you get a sense of at least the first book. Okay, here goes. Chapter 16. Last chapter in the first book. Okay, so I'll just, well, it's kind of obvious, like, Arianna, it's like, she doesn't know who she is exactly, and Laurie Carmichael is, whatever, you can infer things. Ari woke up. She had wakened like this once before, after the accident, after the terrible crash that had twisted her legs and wiped her memory as clean as a blackboard eraser. But then she had awakened to pain worse than fire. Now she woke to sky that was a different blue from any blue she had ever seen before, to the smells of a forest that wasn't pine, but what? Cautiously she sat up. Ache in her legs was familiar, a dull throb in her calves where the scars were, an ache in her right knee. No different then, no new injuries. She sighed in relief. A wave of dizziness swept over her, and she fell on her back. She fought the blackness. Chase! Where was Chase? A cold nose poked her neck. A warm tongue licked her cheek. She smiled gratefully and wound her hands in Lincoln's ruff, her dog. He stepped back and she held on to pull herself upright again. She blinked the dizziness away and looked. Chase stood near, so near that she reached out one hand and steadied herself against his iron-muscled foreleg. He bent his head and whiffed gently into her hair. She got up and dusted off her breeches. "Are you all right, milady?" His voice was in her head. Tentatively, she spoke to him. "Chase? Is that you? Or am I dreaming?" She bit her lip and said to herself, more than to the others, "Or maybe I'm crazy. The doctors told me they weren't sure why my memory's gone. Maybe I'm just plain nuts." Chase looked back at her. The nice little wrinkles over each eye were sharply cut with worry. His nostrils flared red, and his lower lip was tightly closed. She knew he was upset. She stroked his neck, then quickly checked him over. She remembered falling down, the horse and the dog rolling after her. If either one were hurt, she'd have to run back to the farm for help. "I have no hurt, no wound, but she may be injured. Go to her." "She? Who?" A groan answered that. Ari looked around, and she felt as if a giant hand squeezed all the breath out of her. Wherever Ari was, she wasn't at Glacier River Farm anymore. The sky she'd wakened to not moments before was a purple blue, unlike any she'd seen before. So, a little backstory. They went to this cave thingy that was like a portal-ish kind of a thing. There, that's all you need to know. Oh, and that Lori is a brat, to put it very nicely. She was in a meadow. At least she was pretty sure it was a meadow. The grass was thick, knee-high, and of a bluish green that reminded her more of water than anything else. The broad-bladed blue-green grass was as thick and uniform as carpet. The meadow itself was an irregularly shaped circle surrounded by dense trees. But the trees weren't any more normal than the grass or the sky. They were tall, with thickly gnarled branches that bent and twisted. Had she been here before? A second groan, louder than the first, jerked her back to her companions. Lincoln, his tail waving, danced through the strange, thick-bladed grass and bent his head to look at whatever was lying there. Ari hesitated. Should she run away? "I will not," she said aloud. Oh, sorry, I was thinking that was Lori talking, so I gave it a snotty voice. Sorry. "I will not." Ugh. Oh, Ari's like, I don't know, 12-ish or so, by the way, which is slightly older than I was when I read this at the time. Chase snorted in approval. She cautiously approached Lincoln and whatever he was looking at. She wished she had a heavy branch. The third groan made Ari stand up straight and march over to the hump in the grass. She knew that voice, and she was well acquainted with the crossness in it. She put her hands on her hips and looked down. "Lori Carmichael, what are you doing here?" Lori's hair was tangled with bits of twigs and gravel. She wasn't hurt. Ari saw that right away. She was sitting cross-legged with her head on her knees. And that last groan was exasperated, angry even, but not wounded. The blonde girl blinked. The blonde girl blinked up at her. Her face was scratched and muddy. "What have you done now?" she grumbled. "What have I done?" You're the one who came chasing after me. And Max. Poor Max. You rode him too hard, as you always do. When you came crashing down that... He slipped, Lori said furiously. Can I help it if that dumb horse slipped? Lori cannot ride a horse to save her life. Chase walked gracefully through the grass and stood next to Ari, watching Lori with courteous interest. Lori glared at him and got to her feet. Ari suppressed a giggle. Lori's breeches were torn right across the seat, and her underwear was green with little flowers on it. Sorry. What did you do with him? Lori demanded in a nasty voice. With Max, you mean? With Max, you mean? Lori mimicked furiously. Who else, stupid? Godzilla? If you think I'm walking back to the farm all bumped up like this, you've got another thing coming. Chase lowered his head and nudged Ari gently. He did not cross the gap with us. Gap? Ari put her hand on Chase's mane. It was silky under her hand. Chase, what's the gap? I do not recall. What are you doing now? Talking to your horse? Great. Just great. I told Daddy that the accident made you loony, and I was right. Lori took a couple of steps towards them, then looked down to shove Lincoln out of the way. He growled, deep in his throat, but moved aside. Lori looked around angrily, then gasped. Her face turned white. For the first time, she seemed to realize that they were in a place so strange it might have been another planet. On that note, it's not real clear, like, is this another dimension of Earth? Is it another, like, parallel universe of Earth? It's kind of giving something away here, but it's like somewhat sort of medieval times-ish. So, or is it like before they're talking about, like, clearly said, like, Earth, protecting Earth, so did they really, like, go to a different planet? I don't know. It's not really explained. Lost my place. Okay. What's going on here? Her voice quivered. She looked at the trees, with their bizarre branches bent and curled, like hair after a bad perm. That also dates this. She glanced up at the purple blue sky and looked past the trees to the horizon beyond. She flushed bright red and pointed, her eyes so wide Ari could see the whites all around them. Ari, what is that? Ari shaded her eyes with her hands and looked at the sun. It was in the same position in the sky it had been at home, about halfway between the eastern horizon and straight overhead, which meant Lori was pointing west. Ari wheeled around slowly, almost afraid to look beyond the trees. Why, it's a village, she said in amazement. What do you mean, a village, Miss Know-It-All? That's not like any village I've ever seen. A village. Lori was making a huge effort not to cry. She was shaking so hard, Ari wondered if she'd shake herself right out of her riding boots. Ari kept her voice gentle, the way she did when she handled the scared horse. Those are buildings, don't you think? With grass on the roofs? Don't be an idiot. Sure. You've seen pictures. Those are thatched roofs. You know, long grass that's dried, and then put on top of a house to keep the rain out. Yeah, like on Hercules. That's what comes to mind every time I read that is Hercules, because, like, I was obsessed with that show when I was a little kid. Sorry, Tangled. And all of their, like, little buildings, houses, whatever, are like that with the grass roofs things. So as a kid, that's how and that's how I knew what a thatched roof house was, is Hercules. Oh, I don't like it here. I want to go home. You take me home right now. If you don't, I'm going to tell Daddy to buy Chase, and you'll never see him again. Harry ignored her. Where do you suppose we came out? She asked thoughtfully. Came out? Came out? Well, we're on the other side of the cave, aren't we? Something Dr. Bones had told her about Glacier River came back to her now. The land here folded, and folded again when the glaciers came through millions of years ago. Chase nodded. The gap. So that's the gap, Chase? Stop that! Laurie shrieked. Stop that right now! Stop what? Pretending that horse is talking to you. Well, he is talking to me, Ari said reasonably. Don't be an idiot. Harry walked up to her horse and put her hands on either side of his muzzle. She pulled his head down, laid her cheek against the strange white scar on his forehead. It felt cool, cooler than the rest of him. Can we go back the way we came? Sorry. It's getting hard to breathe. It might be the mask. So I'm gonna take it off. And I'm just like not used to public speaking. I don't do it a lot. I'm nervous and blah, so sorry, now I have to find my place. He nickered low in his throat. No. Do you know where we are? On the other side of the gap. Do you know what place this is? The wrinkles on his eyes grew deeper. I perhaps have dreamed of this place. But you don't know where we are. Before he could answer, Laurie screamed, Cut it out! Cut it out! Cut it out! She fairly danced up and down in rage. I want to go home right now! I would shout louder, like, more appropriately, but you know, whatever. There's other people in the house. I don't know how to go home, and Chase doesn't either. Lincoln whined, lay down on the grass, and put his paws over his eyes. Did he understand what she just said? Ari thought she truly would go crazy if he started to talk to her too. She found herself hoping that the dog hadn't really understood what she just said, but that he was tired, or the sun was hurting his eyes, or something. I want to go home too. Ari stared at him, her mouth open. Okay, the dog was talking too. Lincoln's voice was different from Chase's. For one thing, he had an accent. He sounded just like Mrs. Broadbent, the dressage teacher. She came to the farm once a week to teach. It's getting darker, hard to see. To teach first level. I'm sorry, it's hard to see. To teach first level to the writing students. I don't know what kind of accent that means. Is it supposed to mean like a British accent? Well, I'm not going to embarrass myself with trying to do a British accent. Sorry. Hello, Laurie said in an incredibly sarcastic voice, jerking Ari's attention away from Lincoln's newfound ability to chatter. Earth to Ari. Let's get it straight. You do know what happened here, don't you? The tears welled up in her eyes. We've been abducted by aliens, which, again, questions Earth, whatever, dimension. We haven't been abducted by aliens. For one thing, the sun's in the same position it was when we fell through the cave. So I think we're on the other side. The other side of what? Of the farm. A different side. Aside, Ari hesitated. That maybe was here all the time, but the glaciers folded it away. I mean, we can breathe the air and everything, Lori. And I've seen pictures of those thatched roofs in books. I know I have. If we were on another planet, everything would be weird. Oh? Lori's eyebrows rose to her hairline. You don't think this is weird? Excuse me, but this is weird enough for me. Thank you very much. Now, let's get out of here. Ari looked at Chase, standing regally alert, and at Lincoln, sitting majestically, if a little forlornly, on the grass. If they went home, would she be able to speak with them again? You do want to get out of here, don't you? Lori's voice was quavering again. Sure, so let's go to the village and ask how to get back. Are you crazy? I don't think so. Hang on. I gotta turn on the light or something. Okay, there. That's better. I can see better. Okay, Lori grabbed her by the shoulders and shook her. What if they attack us? Why should they? Ari removed Lori's hands from her shoulders. Here's what we'll do. Those trees are pretty thick, and the village is on the other side of the forest. So we'll go through the trees and wait until we see some people walking around and see how normal they look. If they look pretty normal, Ari stopped. We'll ask for the police station. Then we'll go to the police station and ask our way home. Finally, a plan that doesn't sound stupid. Lori folded her arms across her chest and tapped her foot. Good. Ari picked up Chase's lead line, whispered to Lincoln, and set off for the forest. Are you coming? I'm not walking all that way. I'm hot, I'm hungry, and I'm tired. I'm going to ride Chase. Ari debated. She could drag Lori whining all the way through the woods, or she could put her on Chase and get some peace and quiet. She patted Chase's neck. Do you mind? She sits like a sack of potatoes. Just don't dump her off, okay? We've had enough physical stuff this morning. She nodded to Lori. He doesn't mind much. I'll give you a leg up. She crouched and cupped her hands together. Lori put her left foot into Ari's cupped hands. Ari counted 1, 2, 3, and on the count of 3, pushed her hands up. Lori pushed off the ground with her right foot, then swung her right leg over Chase's back. The stallion snorted, tossed his head, and rolled his eyes. Ari raised her hand quietly, and Chase settled down with a grumble. Then Ari crouched down in front of Lincoln. You have a pretty good nose, boy. We collies have excellent noses. As I said, I'm not doing an accent for him. That's great. Can you lead us to the village? By scenting people? And Ari sighed. She'd missed breakfast this morning and she realized she was starved. And the food? Of course. Lincoln's mental tone was lofty. No problem at all. Hang on. Hi. Hi. I had to move locations. It's really, really windy out, so I will do my best to talk over the wind. Yeah, just having a hard time finding a good place to record today. So I'll do my best. I'm skipping ahead to the very end of the book where there's, action and drama and whatnot. Skipping all of the more, boring dialogue and la-di-da stuff. So, this is just like the last, 4 pages or so of the book. And again, I apologize if you can't really hear me because of the wind and if the train goes by and whatever, but this is the best place I had to record. So, here goes. Okay. Oh, so they are walking through the woods at this point, trying to find the village. And the dog, Lincoln, is leading. Lincoln came to an abrupt halt and growled. Ari froze in place. That was Lincoln's stranger growl. The hair along the dog's creamy ruff rippled and stood up. Chase stopped, ears forward. He curled his upper lip over his teeth. Lori, a sob of fear in her throat, cried, "What? What is it?" "Hush!" Ari strained her ears to hear. Flies, black flies, and that horrible dead animal odor that she'd smelled 3 times before. Lincoln whirled to them, teeth snapping. Back, behind the tree. To her astonishment, Ari heard Chase respond. "What?" Chase demanded. "I hide from no thing nor beast, dog." Lincoln's tone was grim. You'll hide from this. Quickly, now." Ari couldn't stop to think about this new phenomenon. Her dog and her horse could talk to each other. There was a quiver in the air, just like the beating of a drum. Ari counted under her breath, almost without realizing she was doing it. 1, 2, 3, 4. "What is it?" Lori was so scared, she almost whispered with terror. Lincoln, cold determination in his eyes, nudged them behind the trunk of the largest tree near them. Sound in the air grew closer. 1, 2, 3, 4. Something's marching. Something's marching," Ari whispered. She looked up at Lori. The blonde girl's face was white. Ari could hear the quick, shallow breaths she took. "Easy now," she said, just as she would to a frightened horse. I love that she talks to Lori like a horse. Deep breaths. Take very deep breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4. There were voices in the beating of the air. Deep voices, many of them, and all of them marching time together. Ari flattened herself against the tree, not daring to look around. Lori bent her head into Chase's mane and sobbed silently, her shoulders shaking. Chase kept his head up, his nostrils flared. He was confused and angry. "Horses, milady, and yet not horses." Ari was afraid to answer. Suddenly, Chase started forward, snorting. Lincoln flung himself in the way, pressing the great stallion's body out of the sight of the oncoming marchers. Ari huddled between Chase's legs. The ground shook. She had to see. Ari crawled forward, peering around the huge tree trunk, almost hidden in the leaves piled at the base. The marchers came through the woods. Ari stuffed her fists in her mouth to keep from screaming. There were so many of them, perhaps 100. Each was coal black with red eyes, demon eyes. Each had an iron horn springing from the middle of its forehead. Black unicorns. An army of them. They carried fear with them, and terror. It was in the air they breathed, the ground they marched upon. They passed the tree where the companions lay hidden, in pairs. Their flaming eyes stared straight ahead. Their coats were blacker than coal, blacker than the bottom of the night itself. Ari's mouth was dry. Her breath was short. She may have fainted just a little from the utter horror of it. When she opened her eyes, they were gone. The air was clean and sweet, the ground firm. It was as if they had never been. "Lori?" Ari was surprised at how calm she sounded. "You okay?" "I guess." Lori's voice was a mere squeak. "Did you look?" I looked. "What was it?" "Did you look?" "No." Lori paused. Yes. Well, so you know what it was. I think Ari was a little mean here. Ari knew that Lori had been too scared to raise her head from Chase's name. If she told Lori that she'd seen a herd of black and fire-eyed unicorns, evil in every step they took, the blonde girl would dissolve in a sticky puddle of tears. So instead, she just messes with her, and they'd never get out of this forest. I didn't exactly see, I guess. So what was it? Just some bears. Bears? Lori sat up with a squall. Lincoln looked at Ari reproachfully. "Now you've done it. She won't stop shrieking until we get to the village." bears! Lori drummed her heels into Chase's side. The stallion cocked his head at Ari. May I dump her, milady? You may not. We will just... Ari sighed. March on. Maybe she'll shut up when she sees we're close to safety. How did she know that? Okay. Last page. None of them spoke again. The fear was still with them. Half an hour later, Lincoln led them to the edge of the woods. And then they gazed upon the village for the first time. Ari looked. She couldn't tell if it was safe or not. But there was a sign, and the sign said, "Welcome to Balinor." Ari stopped, stared, and a cold, cold wind blew over her heart. What was this? What was this? More than a village lay ahead. She took one step forward, then another. The end of book number 1. So those are the. I'm trying to like rest my head, but I can't see. I can't see the camera if I do that. Yeah. So I just have to hope. My head is looking in the camera because I can't see. Yeah. Anyways, so those were the books. Or, well, I mean, that's one of the books, whatever, that inspired my love, well, not totally inspired my love of unicorns. It reinforced? Not sure exactly where my love of unicorns came from. I mean, like, what little girl doesn't love unicorns? But, like, I have a big-ass unicorn tattoo on my leg, and God knows how many unicorn stuffies, and a mirror that has a unicorn on it, and etc, 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 etc. And I love the name Arianna ever since I was a little kid, ever since I read those books. Decided that I want to use that name later in life for my daughter, and not Arianna. My last boyfriend, not the current one, but the last one, did not agree with me on the pronunciation of it at all. I think his reason was just like because of Ariana Grande, like that's how you pronounce it because that's how she pronounces it. Well, to that, you can pronounce a name however you want to. You can spell a name however you want to. It's whatever. It's a name. So, but even if I don't use it on a human, I will name my second dog. I've already had my first dog. Maybe first female dog, whatever. I'm gonna find, even if I have to use it on a freaking fish, I don't care. I will use it. Yeah. So that's it. Thank you for following along with me on this unicorn journey thing. Yeah. I'm excited to see what the next costume theme, whatever thing. Alright, it's enough torture. And thanks for putting up with my horrible reading skills, because I can't sing very well for that reason. I cannot breathe. I cannot breathe very well. Okay. That's probably good enough. Hope this was at least a little entertaining. See you in the next one. Love you. Bye. Whoops, that was my nose, not my mouth. Bye.